My name is Martyn Stewart. I'm a chartered psychologist and consultant here in Qatar from England, and I work with people with their mental well-being. How everybody's behaving is normal. This is expected that everybody would behave like this because we've never dealt with anything like this before. So people don't have any programs, they don't have any mental template to follow. It's making everybody feel uncomfortable. And when you feel uncomfortable, you have no strategies to deal with that. Human beings, we're not really the best at being objective, not really the best at looking at a situation and thinking, okay, let's look at this, devoid of emotion, devoid of feeling, devoid of opinion. But what we are the best at is storytelling, because that's how our brains work. They work on stories. We need to create stories to make sense of information. So right now we're in a novel situation. It's new. We've got nothing to fall back on to tell us how to behave with this. So the only thing we can do is create a story, and we're going to create the best story that makes the most sense in our own heads about how to behave. And this is why we're seeing the behavior. Millions of stories that we could follow, millions of ideas that we could believe. But the reality is, again, because it's a new situation, people aren't going to choose the stories. The stories are going to choose them based on your own experiences. In psychology, we call it schemas. We all have our own schemas, our own templates of thought about how to react to the world, how to interpret the information. Whichever your home country is, you'll probably be checking the news in that country. So I'm checking the news in England, so I'm checking Sky News every day. Somebody from America will be checking Fox News every day or CNN. So the stories that you're going to be fed are going to be coming from your own experience. You're going to be following your own cultural background. So everybody's stories are actually going to be impressed on you, as opposed to you looking at things objectively and deciding your own story to follow from that. And that's the problem, because we don't think objectively. We think very quickly, we think very subconsciously, and most of our behaviors and thoughts are not something that we've considered, looking at all the data that's available. In psychology, we call it confirmation bias. That you have an idea, a belief, and then you go out into the world waiting for information to confirm that. And then you'll dismiss all other information that doesn't confirm it. So right now, the information is coronavirus is a killer, which is correct because it has killed people. But people are looking for information to confirm that coronavirus will kill you. We're not actually sure about that, because if we look at the statistics, potentially about 5%. So what happens is we dismiss the 95% of people who have either recovered or who are just going through the symptoms at the minute. And we focus in on the 5%, which is coronavirus is a killer. Regardless of whatever, the risk is real. But we're attempting to confirm that that danger is real for us, but that's not objective. So what we have to do is we do have to follow the health advice that's been given, and we do have to follow the restrictions that are being given, because what's happening is everybody's an expert now. Everybody's read a news report, everybody's watched a YouTube video, but none of us are experts on this. All people are doing is looking to confirm their own biases, and the world's not helping. Every story is about coronavirus. So what it's doing is it's heightening the anxiety in people as well. It's confirming their biases that it's everywhere. So they look on the sports channels, it's talk about coronavirus. They look on the music channels, it's talk about coronavirus. So it's creating the illusion in our minds that it's everywhere, and it's also confirming what we already believe. Now the reality is, yes, coronavirus is a killer, and we do need to beware. But we cannot just dismiss all of the information. But I'll give you an example. 5% of people are dying from coronavirus. It's also suggesting that it's a specific age range, perhaps over 70s, with pre-existing medical conditions are the most at risk. That doesn't mean that they're the only people who are at risk, but they're the most at risk. Because if you take something like pancreatic cancer, now when you look at it objectively, 95% of people who get pancreatic cancer die from it. Only 5% survive. But when you know somebody who's got pancreatic cancer, what we do is we focus on that 5% who survive, rather than look at the objective that probably 95% of people with this disease are going to die. We don't look at that. You shouldn't just ignore the objective information just because you don't like it or just because you're not prepared for it. And that's what we're all doing here with the coronavirus, because we've never experienced something like this and we're not objective, we're just looking to confirm our own biases. And that's probably where the danger is, because that creates the panic in other people. Everybody's psychology is going to have been affected because it's a disruption to your normal patterns. Humans are habitual by nature. We form habits to make our life easier. Now, this is not making our life easy, it's making it uncomfortable. So most people, when they experience discomfort, the first thing they want to do is just get back to what made them comfortable. But they're not able to do that. The government's telling you to stay in the house. They're telling you to constantly wash your hands. Something as simple as constantly washing your hands, that you think that's not a difficult thing, but it actually is a difficult thing because it's not part of your routine. It's not part of your habitual behavior, so you have to be conscious about that. And so with children, some children aren't even going to be aware of it because children don't think as consciously as we do, especially young children. So now they're not going to be aware of it. So as long as parents are not panicking, thinking, oh my gosh, they touched this, they did that, because that's going to knock the child out of their normal patterns. Why is mum so anxious? Why is dad so anxious? They're not going to be as conscious of the information as we are. They're not reading the news constantly. So they were playing yesterday. Don't restrict them from playing today just because we've been told. Obviously, take precautions, but still, allow them to play. Allow them to be creative. They can read books. They can listen to stories. They can create stories. You give them a book, let them come up with a story. Say like, okay, so today, I don't want you to read your favorite story. I want you to write Harry Potter 9. You write the new Harry Potter and then read it to me. Let them be creative. They're in, especially children under the age of 7, they're in that creative frame of mind already. So there's loads of ways we can do it. We don't need to panic children because we are, but we very easily can panic children because we're not even aware of our own panicking behavior at certain points. So for parents, you've put skills into children as well, and they're just not aware of it. Now's the time for those skills to come out. Now's the time for those independent behaviors to come out. Now's the time for you to take responsibility for looking after yourself. Now's the time for you to start developing and being creative with your skills, because we've been all putting these skills into our children, into our students. It's just that they weren't aware of it. And now that the discomfort's come, now it's actually going to naturally come out. 95% of our behavior is subconscious. So if 95% of our behavior is subconscious, that we're not even aware of it, it's automatic and habitual, which explains why everybody's reacting in this way, which is why I say how everybody's behaving is normal. That means that we've got 5% of our thinking, which is conscious, that we can be aware of. That means that we'd only be conscious for 3 seconds of every minute. So we have to ask ourselves, if we're only conscious for 3 seconds of every minute, how are you going to use that time? And you have to use that time to be the benefit of yourself and others. And the best thing that you can do is to look after your mental well-being. That's a starting point. So ask yourself, what are you going to do with those 3 seconds?